Well, almost 40,000 stranded Australians are facing an even longer wait to get home following a major airline's abrupt decision to suspend flights. Emirates has abandoned all East Coast destinations, with the government's halved caps on international arrivals being blamed for the decision. To help, the government today announced more repatriation flights over the coming months. Europe correspondent Linton Besser reports.
They saved for 3 years to make the move, but couldn't have had worse timing. Ben Goodwin and his fiancée Amy Webster landed in the UK just weeks before the pandemic exploded.
We were barely scraping by, anxious all the time because it was just not a good situation to be in for either of us.
Their dreams in tatters, they decided to go home to Brisbane and bought seats on a Qatar Airways flight leaving next Thursday. Overnight, they got the news they've been dreading.
My stomach just fell. I couldn't find my booking, so called up. And sure enough, they had adjusted and kicked us off the flight because of the new caps that come in place.
Now, another major airline, Emirates, has announced it's suspending all flights into Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane for the foreseeable future, citing operational reasons. It comes after the federal government announced it was halving the number of international arrivals allowed into the country in response to new, more infectious strains of coronavirus circulating in Britain and around the world.
It's just infuriating. It's terrible. They've had nearly a year to organise just constant repat flights.
There are now 37,000 Australians stranded overseas, desperate to get home. Among them, Joaquin and Evie from Tamworth in New South Wales.
It's devastating. You wake up, you look at the news, you think, yet again, here's something else, yet another hurdle for people trying to get back.
The couple, who are both teachers, are stuck in an Airbnb in Liverpool with 2 children. They have tickets booked with Qatar Airways in early March and they're holding their breath.
If Emirates has gone that way, they've obviously seen that it's not viable for them as a business to run it. So I'm really worried that other airlines are going to continue to do that.
In a statement, Emirates said it remained committed to Australia and would continue to operate flights to Perth twice a week. Today's announcement is just the latest blow for thousands of Australians stranded overseas. But with the virus still running rampant across much of the world, there's little political imperative, it seems, to bring them home. Linton Besser, ABC News, London.
An extra 20 repatriation flights have been announced to help clear the backlog of Australians trying to make it home. The government says they'll be from priority areas and are in addition to the newly imposed limits on arrivals.
These are the lucky ones already on home soil after nabbing a seat on government repatriation flights. Now it's hoped more Australians will follow them.
Our government is pleased today to announce that we are scheduling a further 20 facilitated flights to help bring more Australians home.
Those flights will run between January and March and will be underwritten by the Commonwealth. Travellers will be taken to the Howard Springs facility in the Northern Territory for quarantine, as well as hotels in Canberra and Hobart.
These flights will fly from priority areas around the world.
DFAT will soon determine exactly where the flights are needed most. Last week, National Cabinet agreed to temporarily halve the number of international arrivals to some states due to the risk of a new COVID-19 strain. New South Wales is now accepting 1,500 a week, down from just over 3,000. Queensland and Western Australia around 500. Victoria will continue accepting around 1,100 because it was already operating at a lower capacity. South Australia is also unchanged at 500. But global tennis stars and their crews are not bound by those rules, arriving this week for the Australian Open.
It's crucial that the strictest COVID safeguards and protocols are adhered to by all of those tennis authorities.
The tennis issue is huge. It's at least 1,200 tennis players and their entourage, and meanwhile people are homeless here. Australians are homeless in London.
Labor believes their ordeal could have been avoided.
We wouldn't be in this mess if Scott Morrison had done what is his responsibility, and that is to deliver a safe national quarantine system.
Qatar Airways, Etihad, Japan Airlines and Singapore Airlines are still operating flights to Australia. The federal government will now reallocate spaces left by Emirates to other airlines, and National Cabinet will meet next month to review its cap on international arrivals. Noor Haider, ABC News, Canberra.